Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Titok. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys how to draft a stylish queener neckline bustier dress with an asymmetric gathers. So if that's something you're interested in, keep on watching, and if you are still yet to subscribe, please hit on the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. Now let's get started with the video. So these are the measurements we need for this tutorial. And the first thing I'm going to go ahead and do is to rule a starting line which is going to serve as the shoulder line. From the shoulder line, I'm going to come down to my bust point which is 10 inches and then to my under bust which is 13.5 inches. For this tutorial, you need to take your shoulder to waist in front and shoulder to waist at the back separately. So my shoulder to waist in front is 16 inches while my shoulder to waist at the back is 14.5 inches. So I mark 16 inches and then I'm going to go ahead and rule a line across those points. After doing that, I'm going to go ahead and label it. So this is my bust line, my under bust, and then my waistline. Now on the shoulder line, I'm going to go in by 3 inches for the neck width, and then I'm going to come down by 3 inches as well for the neck depth. After doing that, I'm going to use my curve rule to just connect these 2 points together. On the shoulder line, I'm going to divide my shoulder measurement into 2, and that divided by 2 gave me 7.5 inches. So I'm marking 7.5 inches. And then from that point, I'm going to come down by 1 inch for our shoulder slope. So I'm going to connect from the shoulder slope into the neckline. The next thing I'm going to do is to get my armhole depth. And how I normally do this is to divide my bust measurement by 6 and add 1.5 inches to that. So after doing that, I add 7.6 inches for mine. So I'm going to come down by 7.6 inches and then made a point. So I'm going to go ahead and rule a line across and then rule a line to meet the shoulder slope. Now I'm going to divide what I have here into 2 and made a point, and from that point I'm going to go in by half an inch. Now on the chest line, I'm going to divide my bust measurement by 4 and made a point. After doing that, I'm going to use my curve rule to just connect these 3 points together just the way you see me doing. So you're going to connect the 3 points together just to get our armhole curve. Now I'm going to get half of my nipple to nipple measurement, and that's 3.5 inches. So I'm going to mark that 3.5 inches on the bust line, on the bust line, and on the waistline. Just go ahead and divide your nipple to nipple measurement into 2, and then you mark that on the bust line, on the bust line, and on the waistline. After marking that, I'm going to go ahead and rule a line across. Moving ahead, I'm going to come to this shoulder here and divide what I have here into 2 and make a point. So from that point, I'm going to connect it to make the bust point. The next thing we're going to go ahead and do is to add our darts. So on the waistline, I'm going to go in by 0.75 on the both sides. If you are very busty, use 1 inch at the both sides. So I'm going to mark 0.75 on the waistline and on the under bust as well. After doing that, I'm just going to use my ruler to just connect these 2 points together. I will do the same thing on the other side. So from the bust line, I'm going to come down by 1 inch and make a point. And from the under bust, I'm just going to use my curve rule to just connect to make that 1 inch point on the both sides. Coming to this chest line here, I'm going to go up by 1.5 inches. You can go up by 2 inches if you want to. So I'm marking 1.5 inches and then I'm going to rule a line across. Now on this upper part here, I'm going to go in by 1 inch towards the center front and 0.5 inch towards the side front. Mark 1 inch towards the center front and 0.5 inch towards the side front. Just watch the way I'm doing it. After doing that, I'm just going to use my curve rule to connect it like this on the both sides. So you can decide to maintain the chest line or go up by some inches on the chest line. But for me, I'm maintaining the chest line. So from that chest line, I'm going to just make a dot, like I'm going to form a sweetheart neckline towards the arc. And I'll just connect from this arc here towards the armhole. After doing that, I'm going to connect from this second arc here into the neckline. Just watch what I'm doing here. So this is going to be our yoke for the front. Now I'm going to go ahead and trace out the part we're going to be cutting out. The next thing we're going to go ahead and do is to start adding all our body measurements. So on the chest line, I'm going to divide my bust measurement by 4 and then I will measure the dart intake and replace it. On the waistline, I'm going to mark my waist measurement divided by 4 and mark it, and then I will measure the dart intake and then replace it as well. Now I'm just going to use my ruler to connect these 2 points together just the way you see me doing. Now on this front pattern, we're going to be having a side dart. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is to get the difference between my shoulder to waist in front and my shoulder to waist at the back. So 16 inches minus 14.5 inches will give me 1.5 inches. So from the bust line, I'm going to come down by that 1.5 inches and then make a point. So I'll connect from this point into the bust line. So it is going to be our bust dart, and then I'm going to trace it out. The next thing we're going to go ahead and do is to close up this side out. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is to cut through the bust line and then cut through this upper part here. Just watch what I'm doing here, you will get it. After cutting it out like this, I'm just going to close up this side out towards the bust line, and then I'm going to use my paper tape to hold it down. Now I'm going to be adding extra 1.5 inches, which is going to serve as the sewing allowance. So mark 1.5 inches all the way down and then connect it with your straight ruler. So what we have done here is that we have added sewing allowance to this pattern. And I'm just going to go ahead and cut out this front piece. So this is what I had after I was done cutting it out. This is going to be our center front and this is going to be our side front. So our front pattern is ready. The next thing we're going to go ahead and do is to work on the back pattern. To draft the back pattern, of course, you need another pattern paper. So the first thing I'm going to go ahead and do is to mark 1.5 inches all the way down. This 1.5 inches point is going to serve as the zipper allowance. After marking it, I'm going to use my ruler to just connect it all the way down. So I want you guys to take note of something here. All your measurement is going to start from this zipper allowance line here. So I'm going to go ahead and rule a line across, which is going to serve as the shoulder line. So on the shoulder line, I'm going to go in by 3 inches for the neck width, and then I'm going to come down by 1.5 inches for the neck depth. I want you guys to take note of something at this neckline here. For the neck depth, come down by 2 inches instead of that 1.5 inches because I later reduced my by 2 inches. After doing that, I'm just going to connect these 2 points together just the way you see me doing. Don't forget, all your measurements is going to start from this zipper allowance line. So on the shoulder line again, I'm going to mark half of my shoulder measurement, and that's 7.5 inches. And from that point, I'm going to come down by 1 inch for our shoulder loop. After getting that, I'm just going to use my ruler to connect it into the neckline. Now from this shoulder line here, I'm going to come down to my bust point, which is 10 inches, and made a point. And then I'm going to come down to my shoulder to waist at the back, which is 14.5 inches. Remember I told you guys earlier that you need to take your shoulder to waist in front and shoulder to waist at the back separately. After doing that, I'm going to go ahead and rule a line across. The next thing is to get our armhole depth, and how I normally do this is to divide your bust measurement by 6 and add 1.5 inches to it. So mine is 7.6 inches. So I'm going to come down by 7.6 inches and make a point, and then I'm going to rule a line across and then rule a line to make the shoulder slope. Now I'm just going to go ahead and label this line. So this is our chest line, this is our bust line, and this is our waistline. So I'm going to divide what I have here into 2 equal halves and make a point. From that point, I'm going to go in by half an inch. On the chest line, I'm going to divide my bust measurement by 4 and make a point. After doing that, I'm going to use my curve rule to just connect these 3 points together just to get a armhole curve. So I'm going to mark half of my nipple to nipple measurement on the bust line and on the waistline. After doing that, I'm going to connect these together with my straight ruler. The next thing we're going to go ahead and do is to mark our dart. So I'm going to go in by 0.5 inch on the both sides. Mark half an inch on the both sides. After marking that, go ahead and connect it just the way you see me doing. So what I'm going to go ahead and do now is to start adding all our body measurements. So on the chest line, I'm going to divide my bust measurement divided by 4 and made a mark. On the waistline, I'm going to divide my waist measurement divided by 4, and then I'm going to measure the dart intake and then replace it. After doing that, I'm going to connect these 2 points together. So I'm going to be adding extra 1.5 inches as the sewing allowance, just like we did in front. Mark 1.5 inches all the way down, and then I'm going to connect it with my straight ruler. Now on this waistline, I'm just going to connect it into the zipper allowance, and what I'm going to do is to remove some inches. So I'm going to go in by half an inch just to avoid the boldness that you normally have at the back of your dress when you fix your zipper. Go in by half an inch, and then from that half an inch point, I'm going to connect it into the neckline. For this back pattern, you can decide to maintain this or cut it out exactly like the front. You know, the front has a yoke, so you can decide to have the same yoke just like the front piece. Just bring your front yoke, place it on the back, and use that to trace it out. But for me, I'm not going to be using the same neckline for the front. I'm going to maintain this back pattern. After doing that, I'm going to go ahead and cut it out. So this is what my back pattern looks like. Now that we have the back pattern and the front pattern ready, the next thing we're going to go ahead and do is to draft out the skirt part. To draft the skirt part, of course, you need another pattern paper, and then you're going to go ahead and fold it into 2. So what I'm going to go ahead and do now is to draw a starting line which is going to serve as the waistline. Remember, we've cut out the front part of this dress, which is 16 inches. That's from your shoulder to waist. So I'm extending my tape by that 16 inches and I'm going to mark the length of the gown I'm working with. So the length I'm working with is 34 inches and I'm going to be adding extra 1 inch as my sewing allowance, making it 35 inches altogether. After doing that, I'm going to go ahead and rule a line across and label it as the skirt length. Now from the waist, I'm going to come down to my hip line, which is 9 inches, and then I'm going to go ahead and rule a line across and then label it as the hip line. On the waistline from the center, I'm going to divide my waist measurement divided by 4 and made a mark. On the hip line, I'm going to divide my hip measurement divided by 4 and made a point. So I'm going to use my ruler to just connect these 2 points together. After connecting that, I'm going to be adding extra 1.5 inches as a sewing allowance, just like we did in front part. Add extra 1.5 inches for sewing allowance, then you're going to connect it together. After connecting that into the waistline, I'm just going to connect from this hip line into the skirt length. Just watch what I'm doing. Connect from the hip line into the skirt length. Now to create the curve that we're trying to make for this dress, on the hip line, I'm going to come up by 2 inches. So when you are making yours, mark 2.5 inches above your hip line. Now on this hip line, I'm going to go in by 5.5 inches. You can use 5 inches if you want to. But for me, I'm going in by 5.5 inches and made a point. And from that 5.5 inches point, I came down by 2 inches. And then I'm going to use my curve to just connect from that 2 inches point towards the 2 inches that I have above the hip. Go ahead and connect it just the way you see me doing. So from this 5.5 inches, I'm coming down by 2.5 inches. I later used 2.5 inches. And then I'm going to create a curve just the way you see me doing. Create a curve towards that 2.5 inches. On the side here, on the hip line, I'm going to go up by 2.5 inches and made a point. From that point, I'm going to connect it just the way you see me doing. Connect from the side here towards the down part. After doing that, I'm just going to create a straight line towards the sewing allowance. This sewing allowance part is going to be straight. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. So after I was done cutting it out, this is what I have. Wow, I love this already. So this part is going to be our sewing allowance. I'm just going to use my marker to trace the other side out. And this is the down part. This is the down part. I'm going to be using this down part to cut both the front and the back pieces. We'll explain that better later. So I'm going to bring this front piece and place it on my back pattern. I'm going to be using this front pattern to trace out my back pattern. So the difference I have from the front and the back pattern is going to be the zipper allowance. So I'm going to be marking 1.5 inches all the way down, which is going to serve as the zipper allowance. And then I'm going to go ahead and rule a line across. Now I'm going to go ahead and place my front pattern at that zipper allowance line. Then I'm going to go ahead and pin it down. So everything is going to be exactly the same. After doing that, I'm going to go ahead and cut it out. After I was done cutting it out, I'm going to go ahead and label this part as the zipper allowance, just for us to know which part is zipper allowance and which part is sewing allowance. Then I'm going to go ahead and label it as my back pattern. So yeah, this is the front and the back pattern, as you can see. So I'm going to keep this aside now and work on the down part. Remember I told you guys that I'm going to be using this down part to cut both the front and the back pieces. So if you open this up, this is what you're going to have. And what we're going to be doing on this down part is slash and spread method. So I'm going to measure what I have from the center to this side, and what I had was 12 inches. So I'm going to be marking 2 inches distance to the side. Mark 2 inches and then made a point. After doing that, I'm going to go ahead and rule a line from that point upward. So this is what I had after I was done ruling those lines, and I'm going to go ahead and label it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut it out. I want to explain how you guys are going to spread it on your fabric. So this is what I had now. We have 6 pieces ready. So what I want to do now is to place this on your fabric. I want to explain how you guys are going to go about spreading it on your fabric. So you will need 4 to 5 yards of fabric for you to be able to spread this very wide. It totally depends on how full you want it to be. The more fuller you want, the more fabric you will need. You know, I told you guys you need up to 4 or 5 yards of fabric. So whether you are using 4 yards or 5 yards, you're going to fold the whole 5 yards into 4. You're going to fold the whole fabric you are using, fold it into 4. After folding it, the part that doesn't have any cuts, that's the part that doesn't have any cuts at all, is where you're going to place your pattern paper number 1, and then you're going to go ahead and pin it down. So I want you guys to take note of something here. When you are placing your pattern paper on your fabric, make sure the end part is straight. It's going to be straight. Do you understand? the down part, the edge of your fabric is going to be straight. So you're going to measure the distance you want in between your pattern paper. You can use 4 or 5 inches distance. So I'm marking 5 inches here, and then I'm going to place my pattern paper number 2, mark another 5 inches distance, place your pattern paper number 3, then mark another 5 inches distance and place your pattern paper number 5. So whatever distance you want, just mark it and then you place your pattern paper. After doing that, at the top area here, you're going to trace it out with about half an inch above your pattern. Do you understand? You're going to trace it out half an inch above your pattern. So guys, if you notice the end of your pattern paper, you will notice that it's straight down. So it's going to be straight down. The only place you're going to have curve is the upper part. So you're going to mark half an inch above your patterns and then trace it out. So yeah, this is basically all for this tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you find it helpful. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and please hit on the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.